Now, creating a life is something my next guest, Laura Yates, knows all about. But in this case, we're talking about new life. Laura is a hypnobirthing practitioner, a hypnotherapist who specialises in helping mothers have a good pregnancy and birth without fear and stress. She experienced the positive effects of hypnotherapy when she sought help during her first pregnancy. It was an experience that transformed her life, as she told me when we spoke. Yeah, Laura, so I'm really glad that you joined me today on the show, because you have experienced something quite wonderful that every expectant mother-to-be might want to hear about, and that is the use of hypnosis in birthing, so hypnobirthing. And I want you to tell me all about it, but you experienced it for yourself first, didn't you?
I did, yes. Around 12 years ago now, I found myself pregnant by surprise. And it was a big surprise, and I started panicking because all the birth stories that I'd heard were pretty horrific. My mum and my gran told me it's nothing to worry about, you'll be fine. But it was that, that fear that came with, I've got to get a baby out, how am I going to do this? So I had been working with a hypnotherapist previously with some anxiety and PTSD that I was managing at the time. And I'd heard from someone else that she'd worked with people for hypnosis for pain management, and especially with people that have operations and can't have anaesthetic. So I thought, right, she might be able to help me. So I went to see her, had a couple of sessions. That led me on to discovering hypnobirthing. And I went from being completely terrified to really looking forward to giving birth. I've had 2 babies now, both completely different births, but both calm, enjoyable to a point.
Yeah.
And it completely changed everything for me, and basically led to a big career change. I trained as a hypnotherapist, and then I trained as a hypnobirthing practitioner. But I think what stood out for me most was that with my first pregnancy, it actually turned from a very easy-going, textbook pregnancy into what could be described as really quite traumatic. I was advised to terminate the baby for medical reasons. 2 of my grandmas died around at the same time. There was a lot of stress and trauma going on. When he was born, when I was in labour, I knew that as soon as he was born, he was going to be taken off by the doctors for scans. And, you've got all that in the back of your mind. But what amazed me was that with the use of the hypnobirthing skills that I'd used and the work that I'd done with the hypnotherapist, I was calm as a cucumber throughout. And I'm so glad, because, yes, the pregnancy was extremely traumatic and I wouldn't want to go through it again. And the after bit, the first bit of my baby's life, was pretty worrying, whilst they tried to find out what might have been wrong with him. But the birth, I can actually look back on and smile and know that, it was a good way for him to enter the world.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And how's your baby now? Well, he's not a baby anymore. He's
He's now 11, and he's just about to leave primary school next week. So I'm now trying to keep calm and not cry too much.
You'll have to use your hypnotherapy skills to do that.
I will.
But what a transformation. And I know that for a lot of people, the idea of giving birth is hugely traumatic, because we do hear horrendous stories about birth. But also, how wonderful is it for your child to have this calm birth where they're not taking that trauma that their mother's feeling into their cells as they come down that birth canal and into the world. I mean, that's a fabulous start for the baby as well.
Yeah, and I think a common misconception with the style of hypnobirthing that I do is, I work with women who have all different types of birth. I've had clients that have had their births prematurely and tell me that what would have been a really traumatic experience for them, it made a huge difference. And it's the same with other clients have said, when things go in a different direction, being able to stay calm and relaxed and confident in what you're doing makes a complete world of difference. And my baby, my second birth, she was born to me say, you know, we're doing this together. Come on, baby, we're doing this together. And that was basically what she came into the world to, was us cheerleading together. But
that's lovely.
Yeah,
that's beautiful. Yeah. Instead of this, I saw a film the other day and somebody was giving birth and it was, get this thing out of me kind of approach, right? So very, very different, and must impact the baby.
There's a lot of fetal studies now that show how aware the baby is in the womb from an early stage. So yeah, it's incredible to have that start in life and to be able to work with people at that beginning of the child's life and to make it that bit more relaxed and enjoyable. Because I think a lot of, we're constantly fed these impressions that birth is supposed to be screaming, really painful, doing it a certain way, and it doesn't have to be that way.
No, it doesn't. And of course, I've read studies of maybe Indigenous peoples and maybe even our ancestors who would have no problem in giving birth. You'd just go off somewhere quiet and you'd have your baby and then you'd be walking back to the village kind of thing. So one wonders how much of the trauma of birth is down to the way we've been conditioned to see birth as something very difficult. And of course, there's another study as well, or a historical study, which showed that it's only fairly recently that women were expected to give birth on their backs.
Yeah, in the last not few years, but hundreds of years, birth's gone from being something that's celebrated. Women would help women, midwives be with women to give birth, and it was something to be celebrated. And the cave artwork that shows the woman producing milk, and as time went on, it became, without wanting to blame men too much, a very kind of male influence thing where they took over quite a lot. It became quite a medicalized thing.
Yes.
There's a book that an obstetrician back in the 1840s was working in a hospital, and they'd be given pain relief as something that women have in birth, because when they were given birth in hospital, it was because of special circumstances. But when he went into a birth at home, he walked in and said, "Would you like pain relief?" And the lady looked at him and said, "Why would I want that, doctor?" And he watched her give birth naturally, and we watched the women caring for her, and he went away and thought, what she got that they haven't, it was what she didn't have, was that fear. And this is a big part of the hypnobirthing. It is the fear, fight or flight. As soon as you go into that, your body goes into shutdown of, you need to get out. So if you were in a cave giving birth and a tiger came up to the cave, everything in you, all your blood and oxygen would be going away from your womb that's giving birth to your extremities and your heart, so that you can make a run for it. As soon as that tiger goes away, you're back in your parasympathetic nervous system, you're feeling relaxed, and everything can work as it should. So what we find now is that as soon as women kind of go into, or birthing people go into that fight or flight, this is often where you find that labour starts stalling. We're led to believe that the problem is with our own bodies, but quite often we need to look at the environment that we're in. There's the law of the sphincter. So your muscles that give birth are linked to your mouth muscles. So if you can relax both, then it can happen a lot freer and easier. But it's also a similar thing to when you go to the toilet. Now, if you're going to the toilet and you have someone shouting at you and telling you to hurry up, come on, push, what's going to happen?
It tightens up. You can't go, can you? I don't know how we got onto that bit, but no, but it's true. No.
That's appropriate for the radio, but
no, but it's true. Your bodily functions do not function as well if you are stressed and really, tight. You have to relax. And that parasympathetic nerve, I've talked to a few people about the importance of that and how we do need to relax in order for our bodies to really work as well as they are designed to work, because they're designed to work perfectly.
That's it. And even when there are special circumstances in birth and emergency situations, it's that the mind is relaxed, the body is relaxed. So being able to stay calm and present and in control during all eventualities is a really amazing skill to have. I know with, my son actually, the first birth that I had was emergency cesarean right at the end because he wasn't coming out in the best position.
Mm-hmm.
And they realised as he was coming out, so I had to go down for a cesarean. But I was able to discuss my options. I'm at the stage where he's starting to come out now, fully dilated, and I'm having a discussion with the midwife about what the best course of action would be.
Yeah.
Went down to theatre. It was all very, dramatic, but still able to stay calm, let them get the spinal into me. And a lot of the women that I work with have had these situations before where they haven't felt a part of it, where they feel like they've detached from their body and it's been a completely traumatic situation for them, and they just want to be able to stay present and have as best an experience as possible.
A lot of people feel, and I've spoken to a lot of people who've given birth who say that they feel that the whole experience was just taken away from them. It wasn't theirs. They couldn't enjoy it because everybody else was just getting in there and doing and telling them what to do, and they were so stressed by it. And presumably hypnobirthing is a way of helping you get that not control, but be present, get back into the driving seat. It's your body after all.
Yeah, it's a big part of hypnobirthing, and what we teach is decision making and look at evidence-based decisions. So a lot of people are surprised to discover that only 9% of recommendations are actually based on grade A evidence, and there's a whole 50% based on someone's opinion. So some things that are recommended are things that came in the 1960s, for example. Things have changed a lot since then. So it's looking at the evidence around it and what's suitable for you in particular. And you have to trust the medical staff. And if we're in an emergency situation, then it is completely over to them. But I do find when we're actively involved in our birth experience and aware of the decisions that we're making, it gives that autonomy back. So you are back in control of your own experience again. So at the end of the day, it's our body, our births. It's not something you want to give your own power away for.
Exactly. So can you talk us through the process? So you're saying that some of the process of hypnobirthing is looking at options and looking at what might happen. So talk us through how you would deal with a client. Somebody comes to you, they're pregnant, they want to have the best experience possible. And so they're coming to you for advice and for the hypnosis the hypnotherapy that will help them. How do you go about it? What's the process?
I tend to work with people over a number of weeks. So the course that I now teach is taught over 6 weeks. So we'll start with the education around it, where their unconscious fears and thoughts and things about birth have come from, into how birth really works and how the hormones play such a big part in our nervous systems. And I find out after the first session, once they're dehypnotized, we call it, it's not an active hypnosis thing, but it's discussing the science behind birth. Because I know a lot of birth partners that I've had, before they come, they're thinking, oh no, this is going to be a load of hippie rubbish. And actually after the first session, once they've heard the science, because it is all based on science and facts, they're completely converted. Then we'll go into how birth works and relaxation techniques, breathing techniques. We'll go through what could happen during births. Many of my clients are wanting natural births, so we'll go through that route, but we'll also look at if birth takes a different turn, what's that going to look like? How can we stay in control of our experience and bring in comfort measures for that as well? We look at staying fit and healthy, decision making. So there's an acronym, BRAINS it's called. So when they're looking at the options for their birth, they're asking, what are the benefits of this? Are there any risks to it? Are there any alternatives? What's my instinct telling me? how about if I do nothing? I've had quite a few lately who've been offered early inductions for certain reasons, and have asked these questions and have decided to wait a while and actually gone into labour spontaneously and had the birth experience that they wanted. Aware before that they could actually look at other alternatives and options and not just go down this path of that everybody else tends to go down.
Yeah.
The birth partner is a big part of it. They learn skills to keep you calm and relaxed and support you rather than standing around panicking. So a lot of my clients are on their second or third birth, and they'll say it's completely different this time. He actually knew what he was doing.
That's interesting, isn't it? That's fascinating. And so you're with the client all the way through from a few weeks towards the end, as it were. So maybe a couple of months or something like that.
Yeah. Some come and see me earlier. So from earlier pregnancy, I'll work with them on keeping them calm and relaxed. Because, when I found out I was pregnant, I completely panicked, I must admit. But the hypnobirthing part of it, they'll start the Empowered Birth course around 20 weeks onwards. And then we do the 6 weeks, but I support them right up to birth, and then we'll have a get together afterwards as well, all over the world online. So it doesn't matter where they are. I've had a lady in Canada, a couple in Prague, all over.
It's wonderful. And so how does what you do differ from a doula? Because a lot of people are seeking out the help of a doula rather than a midwife. Do you work with midwives? What's the difference?
The difference between me and a doula will be with you during birth to support you. What I'm doing is to prep you so that you and your birth partner, whoever's with you, will be able to be in control yourselves and have all you need to be able to take charge of your own birth experience. I found when I had a doula myself in my second birth, it was just becoming popular to have a doula at birth back in 8 years ago. And I found actually that I almost felt like the power was taken away from me again because I was reliant on someone else to support me.
Right.
And realised that actually in the first birth, when it had been me and my husband there, that I felt a lot more in control. There's some absolutely brilliant doulas, but for me personally, I think it is that teaching, helping people that want to do it themselves with their other half, or I've had mums and all sorts come, that they can be there and enjoy the experience without outside help.
Well, I think that's really important to understand. And I think it's great. I think it's great that you had the experience with a doula and that you realized it wasn't for you, and it might not be for lots of other people, but then other people will want that help and support right there. Yeah. And to be clear as well, you're not taking the place of any midwife either.
No, definitely not.
Just in case anybody got that idea.
Yeah, and it's definitely, I'm not taking the place of a doula either, and I'm definitely not. I've come across some amazing doulas, so I can't really compare myself to them because it is kind of a totally different thing. And the midwives as well, it's about working with them. They want you to have a calm birth as well. They want you to have a good birth experience. So it's giving you the tools and techniques and the skills to work with them rather than against them.
And I think that's a really important point. And so if anybody wants to work with you wherever they are in the world, how do they get in touch with you, Laura?
I have a website, hilltophypnotherapy.com, and I'm on Facebook and Instagram as well. I offer a free half an hour chat. If anyone wants to have a chat about how it might help them, then they're welcome to get in touch and book in.
Brilliant. hilltophypnotherapy.com. And I do encourage people to contact you if they are interested in some of the techniques. I think it's just wonderful to hear how you transformed your life as well around that whole experience of being pregnant, being terrified about being pregnant, finding the solution, and then going on to help other people in the same situation. I think that's wonderful. So Laura, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been really fascinating hearing all about hypnobirthing, which I must confess I did not know existed until quite recently. So thank you for explaining it. And well done. Here's to lots more easy births in future.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And as Laura said there, she can work with you wherever you are in the world. So if you feel that you might need her help, do get in touch. Research has shown that a child in the womb does pick up on its mother's stresses and the environment around it. And this is a great way to make pregnancy and birth as relaxed and enjoyable as possible. Yes, I have heard women describing giving birth as enjoyable. But now it's time for me to relax as we've come to the end of the show. I hope you found the show enjoyable, useful even. Do let me know. You can find me as The Practical Alchemist on social media. But before I go, I want to thank every single one of you who voted in the UK Health Radio Awards this year. The first ever awards. So many of you took the trouble to vote, and we are so grateful to you. The winners will be announced in due course very soon, but for now, just a big heartfelt thanks from me and all of us here for your votes. They really do count. Now though, I look forward to your company again right here on UK Health Radio as I welcome more fantastic guests on Alchemy 101. Until then, it's goodbye from me and that nightingale who's back again to sing us out.